Welcome students. Welcome to the lecture number 8 of chapter Conditional and Looping Constructs. In the previous lecture, I told you about the syntax of the for loop and what are the various ways to write the for loop. Okay. So in today's class, we are going to do some questions related to the for loop. Okay. So let me open the Python editor first. Okay, and we are going to write a program. So let me open the new file. Now the file is open. So first I write a question that write a program to check 5 different numbers that whether they are odd or even. Okay, so now what we have to do in this question, we have to check 5 different numbers, okay, one by one, that whether that number is basically odd or even. Okay, so let's write the code first. Suppose we have taken a variable num, okay, is equal to int input enter the number. Okay, so after taking the number from the user, let's check whether this number is odd or even, and we know that for checking it we have to find the remainder by dividing it by 2. So if the number mod 2 is equivalent to 0, it means the number is divisible by 2, completely divisible by 2. So in that case we can write print the number is even. Okay, so we can print the message that the number is even, but if this condition is wrong, it means if the number mod 2 is not equal to 0, in that case we will write print the number is odd. Okay, so we have written the code, but as you can see that this code is applicable only for a single number. Okay, because when I run this code, it can check only a single number from the user. It takes a single number from the user and check that number and show the result. But in our question we have to check 5 different numbers. So either I can copy this code and paste it 5 times, or I can use a for loop for it. Okay, so let's use the for loop for executing this same code 5 times for checking 5 different numbers. Okay, so my task is to run the for loop 5 times. So I write for I, a loop variable is required in, and suppose if I use a range option. Okay, because right now we haven't studied about the string and the list, so basically we focus on the range option now. Okay, so now how many times I have to do this work? I have to do this work 5 times. So I have written 1 comma 6. Why 6? Because I told you that when the range function is executed, it begins from the value 1 and it ends up with the value 1 less than the last value. Okay, so it means this range function will generate a list of numbers which begins from 1, 2, 3, 4 and ends at 5. Ends at 5 because why? Because it execute till the one value less than the last value. Okay, so it will generate these numbers, and as I told you earlier that one by one these numbers are assigned to the variable I. Okay, and when the I get a variable from this list, then the loop get executed, and when there is no number left for the variable I, then the loop stops the execution. Okay, so we have to arrange all these statement which is written below the for loop in this way. Okay, that's why it will consider them under the for loop, right? So we have prepared the for loop which basically execute 5 times, and when it execute 5 times it always run these 5 statements along with it. Okay, so now my code is ready. Let me run this code and check whether it runs successfully or not. Okay, so first I have to save the code. So suppose I save the code with the name of program P1. Suppose let's give the name as P1. So now my program gets stored with the name P1, and after that let me run it. Okay, so now you can see that it is asking me about a number. So I have given a number 45. It shows me that the number is odd. Obviously it is odd, but you can see that after displaying the message it again asks me about the number. So I have given a number, it is showing me the number is even, then again it asks me a number is odd, and last one is the number is even. So you can see that in this way it asked me about the number 5 times, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you can see that I have given 5 different numbers, and it shows me whether those numbers are even and odd, right? So you can see that in this way we can simply execute a particular code up to a number of times. Okay, so here we are going to check 5 different numbers, that whether they are odd or even. So this one is the code for it. Okay, so it's just a comment over here to display that what are the values that are generated by the range function. So when you write the code you don't need this. So this is the code for the given question. You can also note it down, right? And after that let's do the next question for it. So in the next question we have to write a program to find the highest among 2 numbers. Okay, and we have to check, suppose let's take it 3 different sets. Okay, sets of numbers. So basically we have to check 3 different sets of numbers, right? So let's do the program. As you know that we have to do the work for checking the highest among the 2 numbers 3 times. So first of all I will begin with the for loop, that for I in range I have to do it 3 times. So I will run I1 comma 4, because in this way this loop begins from 1 and ends up at 3. Okay, so in this way the loop will run 3 times, and in this loop what I have to do, I have to take numbers from the user first. So int input, enter the number equal to, right? And similarly I am going to take the value for the next variable also. So in this I change the name of the variable as b. Now after that I have to do the checking work, that if a is greater than b, in that case we have to put the value of a in the variable high. But if the value of a is not greater than b, that it means that the b is the greatest one, so we will put the value of b in the variable high. And after that we are going to print the highest. Okay, just wait. Highest number is equal to comma, and the value of high will be printed. Okay, so now you can see that I have put this code for finding the highest among 2 numbers under this for loop. So what will happen, this for loop will execute 3 times this code, right? So let us check it also. So F5, okay, now it asks me about the number. So I have given 8, and the second number I have given 9. So it shows me that highest number is 9. It again asks me about the number, so I have given 78, 68. So it shows me the highest number is 78, right? And after that again it asked me about the number, so I have given 105, 107. So it gives me the highest number as 107. Okay, so you can see that this for loop repeats the code for finding the highest among two numbers 3 times. Okay, so let's do some more questions based on it. So I hope you have written the code. So now I am really erasing the code and write the next question for you. Okay, so my question is, write a program to find net salary of n number of employees. Okay, so we have to find the net salary of n number of employees, and actually my question expands more than one line, so I will use a comment for it. Okay, where net is equal to basic minus PF minus tax, and PF is 10% of basic, comma tax is 8% of basic, right? So I have to do this question. So in this case, it is not given to us that how many times we have to run the code, and it means exact number is not given to us. Okay, it is not given that you have to find the net salary of 5 employees, 7 employees, 4 employees. No, it is not given. In spite of that, they have given the find the net salary of n numbers of employees. Okay, so it means I have to first take the value of n from the user itself. So int input, and after that I ask the enter the number of employees. Okay, so I have to take the number of employees from the user. Okay, now once I have the number of employees from the user in the variable n, then I have to run the loop up to n term, n number of employees. Okay, so for I in range 1 comma n, but suppose if I written n and if the value of n is 5, then obviously if the value of n is 5, then this loop will run 4 times. But you know, if the number of employees is entered as 5, then I have to execute it 5 times. So what I will do, I will just add 1 to it. Okay, so if the value of n is 5, then n plus 1 will become 6. So it comes to be 1 comma 6. So obviously it will run 5 times. Okay, now after that I have to take the basic salary value from the user. So int input, enter the basic salary. Okay, so now I have the basic salary from the user. Then I have to find the PF. Then PF is basically given over here as 10% of basic. So I will write like PF is equal to basic into 10 by 100, and for the tax it is given as tax is 8% of basic. So I will write tax is equal to basic multiply by 8 divide by 100. Okay, so basic, PF and tax is all calculated, and now we have to find the value of net. That is basically equivalent to basic minus PF minus tax. Okay, now once it is over, I have to show the values. So first I am going to show the value of provident fund to the user. So provident fund is equal to rupees comma PF. Okay, and after that I have to show the income tax also. So income tax is equal to rupees comma tax. Okay, and at the last I am going to show the value of net salary, right? So net salary is equal to rupees comma and then the value of the net, right? So the program is over, and now I have to execute this program to see that what is the result of this. Okay, so F5. Okay, now first it asks me about the number of employees, right? And suppose I have taken only 3 employees, so I will enter the value as 3. So it is asking me the basic salary of the first employee. So suppose if I have given 18,500, so it shows me that the provident fund is 1850, income tax is 1480, and the net salary is rupees 15170. Okay, 15,170. So now I am going to enter the value for the next employee 20,500, so I will get these values. And suppose at next I am going to enter the net salary of the basic salary of the third employee, so this one is the result. Okay, so now you can see that in this way we can find the net salary of n number of employees. All right, so sometimes there may be a case that in spite of giving you the exact number of entries, sometimes in the question it is given that you have to perform the work n number of times. Okay, so in that case you have to first take the value of n from the user and then apply those values in the loop, right? So these are some basic questions related to the for loop. Now I'm going to explain you some more questions, or more different type of questions, and the next that we are going to sort out is basically the series printing. Okay, so let me show you some example. Now suppose if it is given to me that I have to print a series of number in which the first number begins with 2, the second number is 4, then 6, then we have 8, then 10, 12, and so on up to n number of terms. Okay, suppose it is given that you have to write a program which takes the value of n from you, that it will ask you that how many terms you want according to this series. Okay, and when you get the number of terms according to this series, then you have to write a code which basically print the series up to the number of terms specified by the user. Okay, so how we are going to handle it? We know, suppose if the value of n given by user is 5, so obviously we are going to run the for loop, that is for I in range 1 comma n plus 1. Okay, so why we have written 1 comma n plus 1? Because in this series printing I have to perform the printing a number task up to n times. Okay, because in this series I am going to print a number, and how many times I have to print a number? I have to print a number n number of times. So obviously I have to do a for loop for it. So if the value of n is 5, so in this case this loop will run 5 times. Okay, and I know that when I write like this, range I comma n plus 1, and if the value of n is 5, then I know that this will generate a series in which the various numbers are 1, 2, then 3, then 4, and the last one is 5. Okay, and these values are one by one assigned to the variable I. Okay, and each time a value is assigned to the variable I, the loop execute the code given below it. Okay, so now I am going to understand that what is the logic behind it. So at the first time the value of I will be 1. Okay, first time the value of I will be 1, and when the loop runs second times, the value of I will becomes 2, right? And in the third time the value of I becomes 3, and similarly when this loop is run 4 times, then the value of I will become 4. Okay, and at the last the value of I will become 5. Okay, so we know that when this loop runs, then the I variable get these values one by one. First the I variable will get the value 1, then 2, then 3, then 4, then 5, because range function basically generate this list of numbers. Okay, so now what we have to do, we have to think that if the value of I is 1, then at that time I want to print 2 on the screen. When the value of I is 2, then at that time I have to print 4 on the screen. When the value of I is 3, then I have to print 6, and when the value of I is 4, I have to print 8, and when the value of I is 5, I have to print 10 on the screen. So how it will become possible? If you just see the series and the different values of I carefully, then you can notice that if we multiply the value of I by 2, then obviously we get the number given above. Okay, so what we have to do, we have to multiply the value of I by 2, and if we do that, then we get the above numbers. So when the value of I is 1, the 2 into 1 is basically 2. When the I is 2, so 2 2s are 4. When the value of I is 3, so 3 2s are 6. When the value of I is 4, so 4 2s are 8. And when the value of I is 5, then 5 2s are 10. So now I can understand that if under this for loop, I will write the statement like print in the bracket, if I write 2 into I, comma, separator, in the separator I will give some little more space. So in this way, if I print the value of 2 into I, then obviously I will get the series that is given above. So let us do this question. This is my code. So let's remove the everything. So now first I have to take the value of n from the user. So I have taken the value of n, that is input, enter number of terms. Okay, so when you get the number of terms, then you are going to run the loop for I in range 1 comma n plus 1. Okay, so everything is fine. Now I have to print the value of the expression 2 into I every time, and in that I will put a separator also, so that more space will be given. So now my code is ready. So let's run this code and see what is the result. So as you can see that in this code, first ask me about the number of terms. Suppose I have given the number of terms as 7. So you can see that in this case it is giving me the answer as 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 and 14. Okay, all right. Why it basically moves the cursor to the next line? Because okay, in spite of SEP I have to use AND over it. Okay, otherwise the default value of print is of the AND option is next line. So that's why it prints every number to the next line. So let's run it again once more. Given the number of terms as 7, so now you can see that it gives print the series, that is 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14 for me, right? So in this way you can run this series. Now let's do the next question. Suppose if it is given to me to print a series of this pattern, so it is 1, then 3, then 5, then 7, then 9, then 11, then 13 and so on up to n terms. Okay, so now I have to write a code which will basically generate this series. So same funda is basically implemented over here also. In this we run a loop in which I different values is assigned to the variable I. So one the value of I will be 1, and the second time the value of I will be 2, then I will be 3, then I will be 4, then I will be 5, and this chain continues. Okay, now I have to think that when the value of I is 1, what expression I will use, that by putting the value of I in that expression I will get the answer as 1. When the value of I is 2, if I put that value of I in that expression, then I will get the answer as 3. So I have to think over that expression. So now just look at the above. The series is 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, and when you compare this series with the series that is given below, that it is the first term is 2, but over here first term is 1. Here first term is 4. Sorry, second term is 4, but here second term is 3. Here third term is 6, but here third term is 5. Here fourth term is 8. Here fourth term is 7. So I think you found some similarity in this. We know that the above series is we will get by multiplying 2 into I, and you know that every number in this series is basically one less than the number which is present in the above series. So if I write 2 into I minus 1, because आपने ऑब्जर्व किया होगा कि यहाँ पे 2 है तो यहाँ पे 1 आ रहा है, इफ यू आर गेटिंग 4 तो यहाँ पे 3 आ रहा है. सो जो भी नंबर ऊपर प्रिंट हो रहा है उससे एक कम नंबर यहाँ नीचे प्रिंट हो रहा है. सो ऑब्वियसली वी हैव टू फॉलो दिस फॉर्मूला, बट वी विल डू अ सिंपल मॉडिफिकेशन, दैट इज जस्ट subtract 1 from this answer. Okay, so let's make this changes in our code. So it is 2 into I, let's do it 2 into I minus 1, and now I will run it. I have given the number of terms as 7, so now you can see that 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, 13. So we are getting the number of terms in this way, right? Let's do one more question. So let me clear the screen first. Now the next series that I want to print is basically the first number will be 1, then 4, then 9, then 16, then 25, then 36, and so on up to n number of terms. Okay, so obviously I will run the loop from I in range 1 comma n plus 1. So I know that I will get the value as 1, I will also get the value as 2, I get the value as 3, and I get the value as 4, and so on, right? So now you have to find that on the basis of the different values of I, what expression can be used to print the numbers which is given above. Okay, so if you carefully observe the numbers of the series and their corresponding values of I variable, then you came to notice that if I do the square of the number, that is 1 square is 1, 2 square is 4, 3 square is 9, 4 square is 16, 5 square is 25. So it means that if I print I multiply by I, or if I want to write, I can also write it like this, that I star star 2, so it is also I square. So if I write these expression, either this or this one, so in that case I will get this series. So let us implement this also. So in spite of 2 into I will write I star star 2. So it will print the value of I square every time, right? So now it asks me about the number of terms. Suppose if I have given 7, so you can see that I am getting the result as 1, 4, 9, 16, 25, 36, and 49. Okay, so this is basically the series that I want to print. Now let me write one more series for you. Okay, and suppose if I want to print like this 100, then 90, after that I want 80, then 70, then 60, then 50, then 40, 30, then 20, and the last one is 10. Okay, so I want to print the series like this. Okay, remember one thing, when you run the series, and when the series that you want is in increasing order, okay, so you can see that we have printed 3 different series, right? And in these 3 different series you can see that the order is basically the increasing one, that is 2, 4, 6, 8, 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 1, 4, 9, 16. So the order is basically increasing, but over here the order is not increasing, basically the numbers are in decreasing way given to us. Okay, so when the numbers of the series are given to you in decreasing way, then what you have to do, you have to run the loop in the reverse order. It means in spite of executing the loop from 1 to 10, because I know that there are exactly 10 terms present over here, so in spite of executing the loop from 1 to 10, I will execute it from 10 to 1. Okay, so in that case I want the value, first value of I will be 10, then the next value will be 9, the third value will be 8, then 7, then the value of I will be 6, then I will be 5, then it will be 4, then it will be 3, then 2, and the last value of I will be 1. Okay. So now I plotted the different values of I over here. As I told you that the series given to us is basically in the decreasing way, so that's why in spite of setting the values of I from 1 to 10, I put it from like 10 to 1. Okay. So now after that, can you think about a expression which will develop the or give a, or that will print the numbers that is given above by using the value of I? That is very simple. If I multiply the 10 with I, okay, so if when the I of value is 10, so 10 into 10 is 100, I is 9, then 10 into 9 is 90, when I is 8, so 10 into 8 is 80, I is 7, 10 into 7 is 70, and so on, right? So we can do it like this. Now after that, the main question is that how we are going to execute our loop in the reverse way, right? So when basically I use a range function in that case, so we know that the first value that we give in the range function is basically the start value, and after that we will give the stop value, and if I want, I can give one more value, and that is called as the step value. Okay. What is that is called as? That is called as the step value. Okay. So suppose if I write it like this, like let me show you with some examples. So now let me explain you the working of the range function. So for that I have to take a list. So L is equal to list, right? Now I am going to explain you what are the different values that will be generated by the range function. So first I write this simple one, that range 1 comma 6. Okay. So when I press enter and click L, so now you can see that the range function has given this list to this variable L. So it begins with the 1 and ends with the 1 less than the last value. Okay. And suppose if I write like this, range 1 comma, suppose I have written 8 comma 3. So what will happen in this case? What is basically the list that I am going to see? 1, 4 and 7. So 1 is the starting value, and this list will print the numbers 1 less than the 8, and the step value is 3. Step value given is 3. So what does this mean by the step value? It means that जब भी कोई नंबर लिस्ट का प्रिंट होगा, सो नेक्स्ट नंबर कैसे आएगा? करंट वैल्यू में 3 ऐड करेगा, देन इट विल ऑब्टेन द नेक्स्ट नंबर. सो यू कैन सी दैट द फर्स्ट द करंट वैल्यू इज 1 बिकॉज स्टार्टिंग वैल्यू क्या है हमारे पास 1 है, एंड व्हेन वी ऐड 3 टू दिस 1 आई गेट द नेक्स्ट नंबर एज 4, एंड व्हेन आई ऐड 3 टू दिस 4 आई विल गेट द नेक्स्ट नंबर एज 7. ओके. सो 3 यहाँ पे स्टेप वैल्यू है. 3 क्या है? इट्स बेसिकली अ स्टेप वैल्यू, राइट. और सपोज मैंने ऐसे ले लिया L इज इक्वल टू, सपोज अब मुझे उल्टी सीरीज प्रिंट करनी है. सो लिस्ट और यहां पे लिखा रेंज. नाउ 8 कॉमा 1. ओके. सपोज मैं चाहता हूं 8 से 1 से कम तक चले, तो मैंने यहां पे, अच्छा अब यहां पे स्टेप वैल्यू जब आप डिक्रीजिंग चलना है, देन यू हैव टू पुट द स्टेप वैल्यू एज नेगेटिव. सो अब 8 से स्टार्ट होगा, 1 से 1 कम तक चलेगा, बट 8 से 1 से 1 कम तक आने के लिए हर बार हर वैल्यू में 1 माइनस करता रहेगा. सो लेट्स सी दैट व्हाट इज द वैल्यू ऑफ द लिस्ट. द फर्स्ट वैल्यू इज 8, then if it that you can see that over here it is given -1, so 8 minus 1 is 7, 7 minus 1 is 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, like this. But you can see that the last value is not 1. But if I want the series from 8 to 1 in the decreasing way, then I have to write it like this: list range, then it will be 8 comma 0. Don't write 1, put 0. So in this case you will get the series from 8 to 1. Okay. So when I print L, you will get this series. Okay. So now you can understand that how we are going to run our for loop in the reverse way. Okay, so let's move to the coding first, right? So we are basically discussing this one. So we have to run from 10 to 1. Okay, so in this case we will implement the range function like this: 10, 0, -1. Okay, I hope you understand that why I have written 10, 0 and -1. Okay, so let's run this code. So for I in range, I have to change this 10, 0, -1. Okay, and over here in spite I have to write 10 into I. Now I will run it, this code, and you can see that when I, okay, it's asking me about the number of terms. The number of terms is not used at this moment. So you can see that I will get the series from 100 to 10. Okay, so let me remove this line from here because this line is of no use in this case. Okay, and one more thing that I can do with this for loop, in spite of generating these values, that 10, 9, 8, like these values, I can also manage this range function in this way, so that I will get the first value as 100. Okay, I will get the first value as 100, then I get the next value as 90, I get the next value as 80. So if I want to do in like this way, then I can also do this. अब यहाँ पे आप ऑब्जर्व कर रहे हैं कि भाई इनके बीच में जो डिफरेंस है that is of 10. Okay, so step value, that is the difference between these two, is basically 10. So we can write it like this also कि भैया range है from 100 comma, you can see the last value is 10, so we have to move one ahead of this, and the step value, the difference value is basically आप देख सकते हो सबके बीच में 10 का difference है, so I can write it like this -10. Okay, so 100 9 -10. So let's do this also. So 100 9, and this will be -10. So in spite of printing 10 into I have to just print the value of I. So let's see that what will be the result in this case. So now you can see that we are obtaining the same result over here. Okay, so in this case you can run the loop either in this way, like it's range 10, 0, -1, or if you want you can run the loop in this way also. Okay, so now I have shown you some series printing examples and some general examples of for loop, and in the next class we are going to do some more questions based on the for loop. Okay, so that's all for today's class. Thank you very much and have a nice day.